And we're live. David, Aldo, how's it going,
Hey,
guys?
buddy. It's going well, dude.
Aldo, what about
How are
you?
you doing? I don't want to speak for him.
I'm well. Oh, it's always going well. Yeah.
Always going well.
It's a
Yeah. When I'm when
we.
when I'm on camera in a meeting, it's always going well, you know?
Love this. Thanks, guys, for being here. Appreciate you taking the time on this Tuesday to do a masterclass with Sprocketeer.
Thank you, man. I'm really excited to be here. I appreciate you giving us the invitation. I love the logo. So I was in the minute I saw the Sprocketeer Superman image. I was like, all right, I don't know what it is, but I'll sign up for it. And then I learned what it was, and I was like, you know what? I was right to do it. Yeah.
I guess I should change over the hat. Speaking of the logo, I should do
Nice.
the brand guy.
Yeah, rep the swag, dude.
Rep the swag.
Uh,
We are here with David and Aldo from Kixie. Want to just say it's a fun time when you have a group of people who are focused in on similar things that you are. One, Kixie's focused in on HubSpot, and two, just generally being helpful to other people in the community. Thanks for being in.
It's a divisive issue. It's a divisive issue being helpful. You know, there are some CRMs that believe heavily in it and some CRMs that don't. And so we have aligned ourselves with HubSpot that tends to be on the pro helpfulness side. So yeah, I feel like it was the right decision to make. Yeah.
Love it. Love it. It's fun to share in, and we're going to get into the different parts of Kixie. And so for those of you watching right now, welcome to the Kixie Masterclass powered by Sprocketeer. What we're going to do is David and Aldo are going to help us understand more about the use cases that you might experience in the future or you're experiencing now, that when you come upon them, Kixie would be a great tool to install. So, look, I had that issue. I'm coming upon that, or I need to build out in this way. Install Kixie. It's going to do the things that I need it to do. So we will go through the demo. We're going to go through and talk about some maybe features. And as they come up, if you're experiencing things, drop it in the chat, and we can ask these guys as they're going through them, oh, does it work in this way? So I'm hearing you saying, but does it also? So drop in the chat questions about feature sets or experiences you've had, and we can address those here in the masterclass. David, do you want to kick us off?
Well, yeah, let's do it. You know, it's interesting. Right before everyone joined in or before we went live, Grant and I were talking about Discord. And one of the interesting things we had both been discussing about it was the fact that it did so many things. It was hard to kind of bucket into, like, is it a chat? Yeah, it's a chat tool. Is it video conferencing? Yeah, I guess it's also video conferencing. Is it live streaming for gaming? I guess it's also live streaming for gaming. Like, it satisfies a whole bunch of different use cases. And so it's tough to bucket it into any one thing, right? And Kixie, to a large degree, suffers from, I think, the same problem. So I think what I'll do first is I'll just talk about what the heck it is, because clearly it's not easy to glean from the name. And then Aldo's going to show you guys what it does, and then we can talk about specific use cases. But typically they'll bubble up, like ideas will bubble up during the conversation of what we do. So I'll keep it organic and try and keep it fun and lively for you guys as much as possible. So we integrate calling and texting and automate calling and texting with your CRM. In this case, HubSpot. It's all of our favorite CRMs. So I think it's easiest to break Kixie into three primary buckets. And this first slide is just about all the customers we have and our rating on the marketplace and all that stuff. It's just kind of glamorizing, what we do. So I guess the three buckets, the first one is the one you guys are probably most familiar with. You guys have had AirCall on the program. You guys have probably heard of Ring Central or Dialpad. These are integrated phone systems. So Kixie will automatically integrate calling and texting with your CRM. That means that you can operate out of HubSpot. You can click the call right out of HubSpot. You can text people right out of HubSpot. All those calls, all those texts will be automatically tracked and recorded in HubSpot as you go. So no longer will you have to end the call, go into your CRM, type, all right, spoke to so-and-so for half an hour, talked about blah, 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 blah. Like, we will track that automatically. If you have conversational intelligence inside of HubSpot, the call will be transcribed automatically as well. Same with the text message, it'll be transcribed, all that good stuff. So a lot of people are familiar with that, calling and texting integrated with their CRM. You can skip the next slide if you want. The second bucket is, I think, what differentiates us, and you can skip the next slide, really from all of those other AirCall, Dialpad-esque integrated dialing and texting platforms. And that is, I call them fancy dialing features, advanced dialing features. These are things kind of over and above what a typical use case would be. So like those platforms are awesome. If you want a basic dialing platform that integrates with HubSpot, you get a bunch of options. I think if you want to differentiate like why you would come to Kixie as opposed to come to those other solutions, this starts to become why. So we do everything from being able to pre-write text messages and have them sent out with one click through templates. Voicemail drops. So if you ever call someone, they don't pick up, you can leave an automatic voicemail with one click. Actually, a really funny example of this. So one of our customers was running a campaign and they were doing B2C and they were having a hard time with callbacks. And so what they did was they hired a voice impressionist off of Fiverr to do a Morgan Freeman voice impression and record these voicemails. And then they would call people, automatically drop voicemails, and then auto text them and say, "Hey, just Morgan Freeman left you a voicemail. Let me know what you think about it." And like the curiosity factor, the callbacks were like immediate, right? Like, so you do some really fun stuff with that. We like having fun with it. The third feature on this list of second bucket features is Connection Boost. And so this is actually, you can go back one real quick.
Got it.
This is actually an amalgamation of 3 different internal features, all built around spam detection. So if we have time on this, actually, I put some slides at the end just deep diving into spam because it's such an issue right now. And we've done so much work kind of cat and mousing that battle. But the 3 features that make up Connection Boost are spam detection that's done through an AI that we can talk about. That's basically looking at the algorithms that underpin the 4 major mobile carriers and how they detect a number of spam or not, and kind of fights against that with a gigantic pool of like 10,000 numbers we have, gleaning data and then rotating numbers or kicking them out of the pool based off of the data it gets back. We have progressive caller ID, so if you call someone more than once, it's going to rotate numbers. I use this myself. I'm guilty of this. So sometimes I try and get a hold of another exec at a company, and I'd like to call them 3 or 4 times during the day and catch them when they're not busy, because we're always busy and in meetings. But if I did that with my number, they would block me day one. I mean, in a heartbeat, right? So instead, this will rotate numbers each time. It looks like random people are calling them. And then when they finally pick up, it's like, "Hey, it's me. Oh, yeah, I do have rotational caller ID on. Hey, how's it going?" And then everything's great. I can usually charm my way out of it. But so that's been useful for me. And the other thing it does is it dials with a local area code number. So not just the same area code, which I know a lot of people spoof, but actually numbers that are within a 10 geographic miles, 20 geographic miles to the person. So they seem organic, they get through as not spam more often, and they get answered more often. So again, just helping you connect with more people. We have a multi-line power dialer that can dial up to 10 lines at a time. So for those of you who don't know what that experience is like,
Yes.
instead of dialing one number, you'll dial 10 numbers at a time. A person who actually picks up, you connect with only them and move on. So for people who are doing hardcore outbound dialing and want to have their reps dialing not 100 calls a day, but 1,000, like this is a product to do that. So we have that as well. And then we can build out call and text cadences that Aldo's going to get into. So think of it like a call on day 1, text on day 2, call on day 3, that kind of thing. We can build those out with call and texting as well. I got an ambulance coming by. You know what? I think
Hold on.
it was
He's
all
hot.
the features. I think all the features started a fire, a small blaze. California is known for it. It's been a dry season, so I got to be careful which features
David's
I mention
too
and
hot.
don't mention. You know what I mean?
They're into put the fire out.
It was a little much. I got a little too hot there. I'll cool it off a little bit. Bucket 3, we'll splash some bucket 3 on it. Bucket 3 is automations. So this is actually what Aldo's going to dive into the most. It's probably what we'll talk about the most because it's the most interesting, in my opinion, of the features that Kixie offers and differentiates us. So like, people don't come to us for automations. We were talking about this before the podcast started. Like, people come to us for the dialing features and texting features, and that's what people search for. And that's awesome. We totally do all of that. Once they come in the door, typically we learn more about how their company operates, and we figure out that they can automate a lot of the stuff that they're doing and make their employees' lives a lot easier. So that includes automating calling and texting, not just prescriptively, like I'm going to text on day 1, like I just mentioned, but also dynamically, like I'm going to use an event, like someone opens an email, and I want to call them the second they open that email. Someone fills out a form on my website. Text them the second they fill out a form on the website. Or I miss a call, I want to text them back automatically, let them know, "Hey, I missed your call, probably because I'm stuck in a meeting. I'll call you back as soon as I can." We can automate that. So we can automate calls and texts. We can also automate busy work. So I know as an individual contributor, like half my day was spent moving sales forward. The other half was spent doing administrative work that I hated doing. Now it's like all administrative work, ironically, as I moved up the chain. But like so at the end of a call, we can automate all that busy work. So instead of having to take a deal, move it to won or lost, create a follow-up task, say mark it closed if they decide not to move forward, and reopen it 2 months later when they said they were game to try it again. Like, we can automate all of that work, so you don't have to. We can also automate ticket creation and completion. So people who are looking at a support use case, actually a great example. So we helped. Oh, well, I always mention it if I get. So Beretta, a major gun manufacturer everyone's heard of, they came to us. They were a support use case, and they wanted to do some really fancy stuff with missed calls, right? So someone calls in and they have a huge support center and they deal with a lot of customers, typically like bulk resellers and that kind of stuff. And what they wanted to make sure happened was each of them got treated with like white glove treatment. So when they called in and they missed a call, they wanted not only a ticket to be created automatically, but also an automatic response, a text message back to that person, letting them know an agent will be back in touch with them. And then when an agent became available, the agent would automatically call the person through Kixie, and then that ticket would automatically complete only if they connected with the person they were supposed to call. If not, the ticket remains, and we have a whole sequence that fires off. And so that was like huge for them. It was really fun. And we made a whole bunch of fun gun puns and stuff like that around it, around firing off tickets, and you know what I mean? Like, one shot closes and all sorts of stuff with their ticket completion. So anyway, that was really fun. The other thing, it's funny, I put prescriptive versus dynamic sequences up on this thing, and usually I don't. So usually I have these webinars, and I know my time is relatively short, and I don't want to get stuck in a rabbit hole, which I have a tendency to do around this topic. But because you were generous with the time you allotted me, I figured I'd throw it in there, and we could go down a little rabbit hole, because I think it's really fun. This is actually my favorite thing to do with executives at companies right now, is to talk about their prescriptive approach to cadences or sequences and how we can make it more dynamic. So most of you watching this, or a lot of you, will be familiar with the prescriptive sequence. It probably hasn't been called that, but it's a sequence or a cadence, maybe through like outreach or sales off, that goes something like this. A lead comes in on day 1, call the person, right? Then on day 2, email them. And then on day 4, call them. And then day 10, email them. And then 12, call them, that kind of thing. It's great. It's a great way of creating a sales process that's easily scalable, delivering it to a broad swath of sales agents, making sure they're on task. And for the sales agents themselves, I guess, like, not having to remember what day it is and whether they should call the person or not. Like, it's awesome for that. When you really think about it, like, I guess so day 10 comes around and you call the person at 2 p.m. in the afternoon on day 10 on a Thursday. There's no real reason you're calling that person at 2 p.m. on a Thursday, right? It just, that's what came up in your sequence, right? It's day 10. That's what I do. Instead, you've adopted HubSpot, hopefully, or another CRM maybe that allows for a bunch of data to come into it, right? So on HubSpot alone, if we just take HubSpot, you know if they've opened your emails, because there's email tracking built in. You know if they've clicked on links in those emails. You know how many times they've opened or clicked on links. You know if they visited your web page or not. You know if they've engaged with your chatbot or not. You know if they've texted you back or called you back in the interim between your last action and this action. You have all this data flowing into HubSpot. And what is this cadence doing with that data? Well, nothing. I mean, it's calling them on day 10 at 2 p.m. in the afternoon on a Thursday, right? It's just, that's what came up in your, but a much smarter approach would be like, okay, a new lead comes in, we'll call them right away. But if they don't answer, we'll drop them that automatic Morgan Freeman voicemail, and we'll shoot them a text. And whenever they respond to that text, now I know they're at their phone. So I'm going to call them that second when they're at their phone. And so we can engage with people at a time when they're most likely to be receptive to our engaging with them. Because I think one of the worst things as a salesperson is the misalignment between how you utilize your time and how your prospects utilize their time. So like, unlike this Discord meeting where we've agreed upon a time and date, normally it's completely asynchronous communication. I'm calling and texting people at times that are great for me and terrible for them. Right. That's why so many of us like texts and hate receiving calls. Like, it's almost jarring these days. I get a call, I'm like, a call, like, what's going on here? I haven't agreed to this. You know, it's so funny. And so to the extent possible, we'd love to align these calls with engagement by the customer. If they're reading the very email I'm calling them about, well, great. They're more likely to answer the call. They're more receptive to the call once I get them on it. And at worst, I've only wasted their time once, right? If they tell me they're totally interested in Kixie, well, great. They were already wasting their time reading my email, and now the call comes at the same time. They can be done with me and move right on with their lives and never hear from me again. Because the alternative is they read the email, say no to Kixie, and then I call them on day 10, on day 12, on day 14, on day 18. I send a breakup email. I shoot them text messages. I annoy them at times that are inconvenient. It's like terrible. So
you do to meet your quota that I sent all of the follow-up and the follow-ups didn't work. You don't care if the follow-ups work, you still want to close. I want to point 100%. Out, David, what you just said for the HubSpot admins listening is a workflow. And at the trigger inside HubSpot, there's a trigger that's to trigger a workflow. You can either, like you said, use a date and time predetermined based on a calendar or activity. And you just outlined exactly what we do day to day with workflows. And now you're saying I can leverage Kixie to make some of those actions be calls and texts. Amazing.
100%. You know, there's so much power within HubSpot that I think is underutilized by people because it is. I mean, I'll be honest, it's kind of confusing building workflows. I'll give props to HubSpot though. Of any CRM I've ever used, it is the easiest one to build workflows in, but still it's a daunting task. There's a lot of options. You don't know what best practices are or any of that stuff. And so luckily, the people who are really lucky or fortunate have you, Grant, and Sprocketeer to help them deploy HubSpot and to integrate apps like Kixie with it. For people who aren't as lucky to know Grant or who know Grant but also want to utilize us, I think the thing that differentiates us the most from other people, or really any other integration you talk to, not just other phone systems or texting solutions, is the fact that we're a solutions partner as well as an integration partner. It's a little weird. So like the integration is an app that plugs into HubSpot, and people are super familiar with that. And the solutions partner is like an agency, like a Grant, like a Linton Web, or like a SmartBug, or Went Partners, right? It's an agency that you would engage with and pay, and they would help you deploy HubSpot and build workflows and all that fancy stuff. And never the twain shall meet, except for us. We actually are the twain that meets, I guess, to awkwardly phrase it. Yeah, we are both. So we are the app that integrates with your HubSpot, but we are also a solutions partner that can help you implement that. But since that's not part of our business model, like we don't make money off of it, we just do it for free. And the reason we do that is because we have a deep belief that like, at the end of the day, I mean, the biggest barrier to entry, like for people to really get the most out of their purchases of software happens to be deployment, right? And actually using the darn thing. I mean, I'm even guilty of this. You'll buy a really expensive platform because a salesperson did a great slide deck and they'll tell you about all this awesome support they're going to have. And then they leave you to it and you're like, okay, I do not have the time or the bandwidth to become an expert in this piece of software. I'll use it to the 20% I'm capable of using it. The other 80% I'll leave on a shelf, and support will be there if it ever like completely blows up. But like other than that, I'm kind of dead in the water. So we're like, let's get around that, dude. Let's help them actually deploy the software. So we built, I mean, literally ALDO's entire team is a solutions engineering team. All they do is help people build out HubSpot and workflows and implement Kixie and better their sales process or support process and get the most out of our tool and to kind of level up their business. It's like, it's something we do. And our whole company's based here in Santa Monica, California. There's no outsourced anything, developer support, nothing. And we tend to be pretty jovial, so we're fun to talk to. All right, cool. I realized for the last like 10 minutes, I think I have just been vomiting features at anyone who's attending this thing. And I know as someone who has attended these, at a certain point, your eyes kind of glaze over, right? It's just like, all right, I remember he said voicemail drops and he said Morgan Freeman. I guess that's all you remember, right?
It was red. The guy was nice.
Yeah.
What was the name of that thing?
He made a couple of jokes. He seemed funny. Right. So I think to make it stickier and also just give you an idea what the heck we're talking about, I'm gonna have Aldo take the baton from me and kind of show you guys what it looks like in action, and you can kind of see the power of Kixie up close and personal.
Hi, everyone. I'm Aldo. I'm the head of solutions engineering here at Kixie, and I'm going to walk you through some of the basics of what Kixie actually looks like on the day-to-day, using it alongside HubSpot, and then also more from like an admin perspective, how you might go about implementing some of these automated actions that we were just talking about. Right now, it looks like we're starting out in a workflow, but I don't really want to be here yet. Let's just show the basics. Let's show Kixie next to HubSpot, what it might look like if you're calling out of a contact record, or maybe you're calling out of a task view and you're just sort of running through those tasks and making calls. It doesn't really matter. You can dial Kixie with a click to call the same way. Anywhere
Aldo,
in
do you want to
Chrome
go ahead
that
and
you're using
share? Sorry to. Do you want to share your screen?
Are we? Oh, is it back up now? Oh, cool. Is it visible? Is it not? I see this exclamation point here.
It's so funny. This is like our first time like diving into Discord. And I feel like such an old fogey. I'm like, all right, is it by the Peppy the Frog logo, and then underneath that is the I see. Okay, that's the icon to share my screen. I got it now. Yeah.
Is my screen not visible? It says it's still running. That we're pause the preview to save my resources.
I see it. It's.
Do you?
Is it not?
Yours? I don't see yours, Aldo.
You click watch.
I'm gonna stop mine. You go ahead and try it again, Aldo. I turned mine off.
Cool. All right, I'm gonna stop.
Good. We're building suspense. This is important.
I'm gonna
This
start.
is part of the
it really
masterclass.
See, that's what we call showmanship.
It's showmanship. It is. If you just give it to them, they don't appreciate it. You have to really make them want it first, and then slowly deliver. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't see it yet, Aldo. So yeah, the Discord, like David said, is a new platform for lots of people, seeing that they're on Notion now and more people are using Slack. Discord is that community thing where you can do text and you can do voice in the channels that you just click into. And so when we were deciding, one, Salesforce owned Slack. But also, we didn't want to do
Slack.
Yeah,
I know.
If
dude,
we're gonna go
rest in
HubSpot,
peace, Slack. I know. It was a good thing while we had it, huh? Yeah, they gobbled that one up. Yeah, I think Discord's really powerful. I like it a lot. It's funny. It's interesting that a company can become Discord is for gaming, even though. And Slack is for business, even though they actually have the same functionality. If not, this Discord probably has more functionality.
Right. It's not feature based. It's the perception.
It's just thought of it that way. It's the perception of it. Totally perception of it. You know what I mean? Yeah, totally perception of it. It's very funny. Yeah, it is.
Well, it's
coming back in, dude.
Yeah, are you not able to see the screen? It says I'm still streaming.
Down on the left or down underneath, you should have your share screen. We can't even see you, actually.
Oh,
yeah, I disabled my video, wondering if that would help the actual...
It's just popping up for me. This pops up for me.
Oh, David, you can see it, huh?
I can see it.
His screen.
Yep.
So now it's a me thing.
I'm moving the window around a little bit.
He's scooching a window. There is scooching. I can confirm that.
Too. Can I not?
Okay, good.
Okay.
It's like we're all living in our own reality.
Watch stream.
Feels like that.
I see it.
I pondered that.
Are we just?
Is it visible?
This
Aldo,
is the
I
first
can see
evidence
your
of that,
screen.
Aldo.
Yes.
Fantastic, dude. Great. Okay.
Thank you for sticking with us. I have to say, Aldo, you were very gracious just now in the screen sharing. Thank you for working through it. I appreciate you.
I roll with the punches. That's what we do here. We're solutions oriented.
Yes, sir.
So here we are. We're looking at a contact record in HubSpot. You could be working out of a task queue. It's really the same process, right? Any phone where you see a phone number in Chrome, we will present what we call the click to call icon next to it. And this is perhaps the most basic feature of Kixie. But as you can see, I'm initiating a call by clicking on that click to call, which is great. But that's not really what we're here to talk about. But this is sort of like the typical view of an agent who is using Kixie. Now, if you start leveraging what we like to refer to as event-based automation, meaning that we're going to call them based off of something they did. Maybe they opened an email, or maybe they submitted a form. We will then prompt an auto dial from your rep or from a team of agents, and whoever is available can confirm that they're available and make the call. So I will show you what that looks like, and then we're going to jump into a workflow and talk about how some of this is implemented. If you're already familiar with using workflows, then this is going to seem very straightforward and intuitive to you. So here we go. This is what an auto dial looks like. Very similar to an inbound call. As you can see, there is a link to my HubSpot contact record right here, so I can click into it right away and have all the information that I need from HubSpot in front of me. I click on this accept call button. Now I'm dialing outbound to this contact. As we mentioned earlier, if they don't answer, I can always drop a Morgan Freeman voicemail, end the call. Kixie waits for the voicemail greeting to stop, waits for the beep, then plays that recording. I am moving on with my life while Kixie is doing that in the background. That's essentially what we do. People do different things that interact with your marketing material, whether it be opening an email, responding, an email bouncing, form being submitted, whatever you can think of, whatever triggers are available inside of HubSpot, we can trigger auto dials as well as auto text messages. So without further ado, let's jump into a workflow here. This is a very common use case. A HubSpot form is submitted, or anything. An email is open, any trigger that you can dream up in HubSpot. We can go ahead and add some Kixie auto calls and some auto text messages to it. You don't have to assign an owner right away. You could just prompt an entire team of agents who are using Kixie to dial, and whoever accepts the call can become the owner. We have some features that cover that. But regardless, just for this use case, we'll go ahead and assign it to a member of our SDR team. The SDR gets assigned. We immediately send out a text message from the SDR's direct phone number. And what I really want to point out here is that you can embed any contact property token into this text message. It could be a custom token as well. So if you want to reference their street address or the budget that they submitted in their form, or just say, hi, first name, this is contact owner at Kixie, you can do so. So any contact properties that you're capturing can be included in your message, so it can be kind of personalized and tailored. And then you can also trigger an auto dial right away, which looks like what I just showed you. The agent confirms their availability, they're ready for the call, they can click into the contact record right from the dialer, and they're taken to the phone call into the contact record. We also have some other features. So we mentioned something called cadences earlier, where maybe you want to do an entire series of follow-ups. And you could do that all inside of HubSpot, by the way. You could set up a series of delays and another text message, another phone call. You can also just sort of build out a cadence right over here. What's cool about this feature is that we include a little something called target hours. Now, target hours refer to the time zone of the area code that you're calling. So as a call center manager, you probably don't want to have to manage these different lists and say, okay, we're only going to call the West Coast from 6 a.m. or I'm sorry, from like 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. or something like that, and call the East Coast from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. because we want to stay in those hours. This sort of does that work for you. So we say, okay, I only want to call people in their time zone 9 to 5. So I just set that up over here.
Wow.
And now Kixie will automatically omit the phone numbers that are outside of that time zone or that time limit. And then it'll defer to the next day. So that's a really nice thing about using call cadences. And then it's very similar to a workflow in that regard, that you can just add your follow-ups and Kixie will abide by the rules that you set for the target hours. If we were to go back into the HubSpot workflow, you might be wondering, okay, how do I stop this cadence from firing if they meet some kind of goal that's set up in HubSpot that's outside of Kixie? We do include that as well. So we have, in addition to some enrollment action steps, we have some remove from action steps. So I want to remove this contact from the cadence based off of something that just happened inside of HubSpot, and so forth. And these are some different actions that are available. As you can see, once you install Kixie, we're pretty easy to find right there in a contact-based workflow, and anyone who has access to it can start building those out.
Aldo, that's pretty cool. That removal makes a lot of sense, because just like you want to enroll based on activity, you probably want to remove based on activity too.
Exactly. And you can do it all inside of HubSpot anyway. You can just set up your delays and do more auto calls from there. But that's another thing that kind of gives you some other tools to work with and make life a little bit more manageable if you're calling nationwide. One other really important thing that we do is we log your HubSpot call outcomes from the Kixie dialer into HubSpot. So when I go to log an outcome after that call, these outcomes are built inside of HubSpot. Kixie absorbs those outcomes and we log them. The same thing for your call types. We only use demo the one we have right now, but whatever call types you have, you can categorize and subcategorize the outcome of your calls based on what happened and build automation around that. So maybe I want to trigger some kind of workflow based off of something that happened inside of Kixie. I just go to an activities property. I find call outcome. Is any of favorite one demo booked? And I'm going to maybe create a deal out of that or move it to a new stage of the pipeline or whatever it is that I'm going to do. So not only can we be action steps from your HubSpot workflows, but we can also trigger HubSpot workflows by logging HubSpot call outcomes. And the idea is to be a seamless integration where you're really just focusing on building things inside of HubSpot, and Kixie is sort of like helping you leverage and implement those functions. And one more thing I want to point out is that, as David mentioned earlier, our calls are true HubSpot phone calls. When we log a phone call to HubSpot, we're not logging like a Kixie activity, we're logging a HubSpot call activity. So as some of you probably already know, HubSpot already has these really great reports inside their reporting library that center around phone calls. You can just use those with Kixie, and they work right out of the box. Or you can make any custom reports that you want to and just focus on HubSpot call activities, and Kixie works with it. And because we're logging HubSpot calls, we also work with their transcriptions. So that means that if you have sales, I believe it's on the enterprise plan, or maybe it's on professional now, sales or service hub, professional or enterprise, don't quote me on that. And you have access to, it's both now. I think they did kind of open it up recently. I thought I saw an update on that.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
That means that your conversation intelligence works with Kixie. Also, here's our dashboard that you can also access and embed as an external content in HubSpot.
Although, yeah, you noticed I giggled because when you open up a report dashboard and the reports are natively built out, that's just comical. I mean, that's just, it's fantastic. It again makes sense. It again is the thing that I would want to expect, that once I have all of this, then, well, I'll need that. And you're like, well, yeah, of course we do that.
The nice thing is that if you've already built like reports or workflows that center around calls, you don't need to change anything when you add Kixie to your stack. You just keep using those call outcomes, you keep using those workflows, all the reports, nothing changes.
Okay.
Just add it on.
So we got to go back to the start of that. So listen here, if you're listening right now and you've not heard anything yet, what Aldo just said is your existing pipeline, your existing metrics, and your existing reports, when you add Kixie, will continue. Right? It's not a, now I need to, now how do I, where do I, and then nope. You just add it on and everything else continues. That's a big deal.
And as David was mentioning earlier,
I should have led with that.
We buried the lead a little bit. Yeah. We want people to work for it. You know what I mean?
So
it was the showmanship that Aldo is showing us, David. He's teaching us.
If we just told them that in the beginning, they would listen to it and they would go, okay, got it, and leave. And then we wouldn't get to hear all of our other banter. You know what I mean? That's not good. Yeah.
You got to keep hanging on. And like we were mentioning earlier, the entire solutions team is HubSpot certified, implementation certified. So if you are new to all of this, we're happy to be as hands-on as you want us to be. We can help you build these things out. We can kind of build them out for you and then have a call where we go over it and make sure it's working the way you expect it to. And we're always happy to help with the implementation and maintenance as you go on with Kixie and HubSpot.
It's fantastic. Aldo, no questions, I guess, at this time. One, thank you for the rundown. Two, the drop-down selects in the side panel, you said those are just coming in, these outcomes and the call type. As far as the outcome, these are closed won or closed lost reasons? Is that how I'm to understand
it? They're basically a summary of the phone call. And you can kind of go into HubSpot, and this is where you'd build them out, go down to calling, and create your call outcomes. It's recently moved around. Track call outcomes. So you build them here.
Oh,
and then they become
will you move that over
over here
to your screen?
Sure. Is it?
We all have a whole bunch of monitors over here.
A couple monitors.
It's monitor mania over here. Yeah. Is that is to accommodate our expanding tab habit, which we talked about earlier. A bit of a
true.
Tabaholics over here. Yeah.
I'm going to group sessions for my tabs.
Yeah, the first step is to acknowledge that we have the problem, and we've done that. We've done that, but so far we've only accommodated the addiction. We haven't actually taken any steps to remediate it. So it's kind of just, more monitors. That's been our solution. Yeah.
And hopefully this is visible to everyone. Sharing screens has been probably the final thing I've yet to master in my role as a solutions engineer over here at Kixie. You know,
I can still see your call and your report.
It's pro level, pro level,
no kidding. I think that must be lag, because that report is so yesterday. That report is no longer on my screen. Hold on, let me try this again. Let me try turning off the share and turning it back on.
Hey, now I can see it.
Aha,
we got it. We got it.
Oh, cool. There we go. All right. So yeah, as you can see, I create my call outcomes here, and it could be meant for anything. Any type of phone call that you might make inside of HubSpot. You know, you might want to have an outcome that sort of summarizes and explains what it was. And so there you go. And then just log them from Kixie and push them right into HubSpot. That way the rep doesn't have to actually go into HubSpot and actually update records. They just do everything from the dialer and move on.
So Aldo, I was a little low key wanting you to show this, one, because that's what made more sense to me, is that it would be within the call functionality within HubSpot. What some salespeople might be day-to-day working within, whether it's on their phone in the HubSpot app or actually in the desktop app, might be a pipeline, and so they know that at the end of the interaction, they might be doing a close won, close lost reason.
Yep.
But just clarifying that, yep, there's reasons there, but what we're referring to are the call outcomes, not the entire customer-client deal outcome.
Right, which you could build some workflows in between them that does one updates the other.
I was gonna say that's a lot of times what we try and do is like, why not just kill two birds with one stone?
Right.
I know it's always a crazy phrase, but essentially what we're gonna do is like log the outcome and have that outcome dictate the automation. It takes care of whatever you want to do, whether it's moving it to the new stages, sending a thank you email the next day saying, hey, great talking to you yesterday, adding a deal value to the thing, assigning it to a different AE, like maybe it's a size of deal you don't work, you can auto rotate it between other AEs that do work that size of deal, and send them a like introductory email saying, hey, I passed you off to another AE. Like automate all that stuff, because that's the stuff salespeople hate doing. It's the stuff they tend to not be great at, and that us as managers harp on them about all the time. Well, why go through that song and dance all the time? Like, just
now you've given me. Now you've given me on the call the granularity to tell you about the call, because I just made a call. Well, if you want based on this call outcome, all these other things to happen, cool, automate that. I was just done with a call.
Automate it. 100%.
You've given me that power.
Just log the outcome they want, like interested in moving forward, my deal size, and it would just take care of the rest. Move it to qualified, fill out fields within HubSpot, send the thank you email, maybe text them a couple days later, see how they're doing, like all that stuff. Yeah.
I guess I wish you guys would have really thought through how all of this works, and I think it really would have been nice if you'd have thought through use cases and what we're interacting with.
One day we will.
Someday, maybe.
One day we will. Right now, we just kind of play around. It's like on the Rector set, and we just been kind of messing around with this thing. We're eventually going to put it to some use. We haven't figured out how yet, but one of these days.
One step at a time.
Aldo, do you have anything else on the demo side?
Oh, do you want to show them real quick? Do you want to expand out the Kixie thing and just show them the giant multi-line
dialer? Should we do the thing?
All right, cool. Well, I don't think if we might not start another fire if we do it. Just do it real quick, and then you can take it away.
Let's do the thing. So we were talking about event-based automation. Like, oh yeah, they interacted, but what about all your cold leads? Well, we have like a powerless dialer where you can sort of run through your contacts. Hey, they've been in the CRM for a long time. Log an outcome, save and dial again, and you're dialing. And you're just sort of moving through your list, and you're dialing. You can end your call.
Can you refresh your thing?
Voicemail. Oh, is it not visible again?
Yeah, refresh your thing, and I'm going to make a blam noise when you do it. It'll be fun.
All right,
it'll really emphasize it. Yeah.
I'll slack you when I'm about to.
Bam.
Now we can
look
see
at
it.
That. Right there, there it is.
We
right
got
there.
it. We got it.
Can you in post production, Grant? Can you add like one of those comic book blammo, like blam or wham? I would go with a blam or wham. I'm amenable to either. Just in like edgy with edges around it.
It's on theme. I feel like that's definitely a good idea. Yeah.
I think if I just
and
here, we'll make it so that Kabam!
Yeah. Oh, dude, he does have it. He actually has
Oh,
it.
that's neat.
Perfect, dude.
That's really neat.
That's exactly right. So so if you're really doing a lot of hardcore outbound calling and you want to maximize your reps efficacy, this is the thing to do it. Like you could have 4 lines at a time, 10 lines at a time, whatever you want, and only connect with the people who pick up the phone. And you can combine it with like local presence, the connection boost feature that we had. So you're dialing people with local area code numbers that don't show as spam, that rotate each time you call, and really kind of knock them dead. It's pretty fun.
What I especially love about that use case is sometimes we have customers who are buying lists of leads, and they want to validate that data before they actually make the marketing contacts in HubSpot. So they want to actually give it a phone call, make sure they're still speaking with the right person, they have the right email address, and then log an outcome like marketing qualified, and then trigger a workflow based off that outcome that sets them as a marketing contact and potentially enrolls them into some kind of drip campaign from there. So that's a great use case for sort of validating your data or just prospecting old leads.
So again, a lot of times it's a combination that you'd adopt a tool like Kixie, but also you'd be thinking through your sales process like that. Like, okay, I've got these leads coming in. What do I want to automate in terms of outreach? How do I want to handle lost deals? Do I want to feed those back and have a recapture campaign? What does that look like? What if I connect with them in the recapture campaign? How do I inject them back into my normal inbound pipeline?
Right.
We've done that a million times. This is literally what we do all day. So like, we can help you with that. Like we can lend you not only the technical expertise of like setting the workflows up for you, but also just like the use case expertise. Like this is what we've done for Grant Cardone or Jordan Belfort's team or IBM or whatever. We can give you examples of other teams we worked with and what they've done to connect with more prospects and help you guys implement it. Anyway, it's
David, that's a great
what we
segue.
enjoy doing. Yeah.
Would love for you to run through. We have a couple use cases up, and then we'll talk. We'll give some love to you guys. You've been super fun and awesome on the call and during the setup for me as well. And then we'll give you guys the over to Chuck. But we have Canopy up right now. Will you give us kind of the one-liner for each of these of what should we know that this use case got, basically?
Yeah, so it used to be called Tax Canopy. Now it's called Canopy. Canopy, dude, they cared about one thing, like above. Like I remember getting on the phone with them, and they were like, "David, answer me one question. How long will it take to get one of my reps on the phone with a lead as soon as they fill out a form? Like that before I don't talk to you about anything else." That's the one question he had. And I'm like, "Well, right. I mean, immediately. I don't know. It depends on your internet connection, but like it will happen within seconds. I don't know, 30 seconds, something like that." And that's exactly what we did. So they, like a lot of companies, were fighting over shared leads. So there are these, lead aggregators essentially that will get in leads for, in this case, tax remediation, and they will share it with a number of different companies. And it's it's hungry game of hungry hippos.
Yeah,
right? The first hippo to eat that thing is getting it. So we helped them achieve that by instead, with most platforms, even with the expensive ones like an Outreach or a SalesOft, it'll create a task for the rep or an event. It'll notify them, hey, someone filled out a form, and it's up to the rep to make that call. But like, let's just automate the call like that second. So the minute they fill out the form, they're getting a call right then. And then they're getting an automatic text message from the person. And then maybe we'll call them back again in a minute or two after they've had a chance to read the text message. Like, let's do that. Like to win more of these leads. So that's what we did for literally. That was the thing. We ended up doing a bunch of other stuff for them, but that was what really sold them on the platform. And that was what moved forward. So it was great. We brought them on board, HubSpot and Kixie, which was awesome.
That's good stuff. Just that call time coming down, it sounds like.
Literally, time to call. It's one of those things. There are certain activities that should be done by a person, right? Like qualitative aspects of the job that are like, how do I feel about this guy moving forward? Is he a champion or not internally? Like that kind of stuff. Like the sales rep should use their brain power focusing on that, not focusing on, oh God, let me watch my notifications. Oh, a new lead came in. Let me go call them. Like that's something, let's let a machine focus on that. Because that kind of action step should be something left to a device that can literally just watch for that event happening and occur at that second. And we can let the reps focus on, honestly, higher level thought processes. You know what I mean? Like
Love it.
Yeah, let's free them up to do that. It makes their job more enjoyable. We have like almost no self-attrition over here at Kixie on the sales side, partly because I think we eat our own dog food, right? And we don't make them do a lot of this menial work that like is the least satisfying part of sales, in my opinion. So,
all right, we have Reach on the screen next. It says their appointment booking software, 45% improvement on connection rate. What was the issue there?
So these guys using our connection boost, so they're having the same problem that everyone watching this has, which is that your calls show up as spam on more and more carriers. And it's interesting, you know, carriers, as we've done a lot of deep dives into them because it's such a cat and mouse game. And it's interesting that each major mobile carrier contracts out with a third-party vendor that then has their own built-in internal algorithm by which they rank phone calls and determine whether it's likely to be spam or not spam.
Mm-hmm.
For those of you who are old enough, I don't know if you remember email. Email used to be, there was a time when you could send out 1,000 emails at once, boom, to 1,000 contacts, and they would actually deliver. It was wild times, wild, crazy times. And I shut that down, right? Obviously, right now, if you try to do that with your Gmail account, just watch what happens. Like your Gmail account will be blocked so quickly, and none of your emails are going to get delivered. It's because email providers look at a bunch of qualitative data about the emails coming in, and they say, okay, is this an email that's been vetted before and people have responded to it? Is this an email that sends a lot of outgoing messages with no incoming messages? Is this an email that's old or one that was newly created? Does the IP address match up? All that stuff. Think of calls as treated the exact same way nowadays. It used to be Wild West. You could just call anybody at any time, call them 10 times in a row, calls would go through. And it's just not like that anymore. They wised up and they treat it just like emails got treated. So essentially we have a platform that functions much like early email sequencing did, where we're like, okay, we need to have a smart way of approaching this. And so Octopi had this problem and we were like, okay, how much do you really want to know about spam? And they're like, a lot. We're like, all right, well, we'll give you essentially a masterclass on spam detection, and we'll go through all the different carriers, what platform they use, what their algorithm looks for, and how we combat that. And we combat that by not only rotating the number, but rotating it between essentially this gigantic bank of about 10,000 numbers we have all over the world that you can essentially opt into. And these numbers are run through this AI that vets them against these different mobile carriers, third party that does the phone number vetting and kicks out ones that are underperformers. It's almost like a game of electronic Darwinism going on in the background with this block of numbers. Yeah, the bad ones are getting sloughed off and replaced with new, better performing numbers. It's a brutal, ruthless world of numbers.
So David, was this more on the solution side and less actually on the app side?
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. This is actually app side. This is something that's built in. You know, it's a toggle. So like for the dialer, amazing. It sounds really complicated in the back end.
It does.
It's literally just a switch. So for most people, they don't have to know anything about this. But for those of you who want to geek out on it, I love geeking out on it. Clearly, there's a bunch going on in the background. But you don't like all you have to do. You toggle on connection boost, and it just opts into this thing, and we'll just call with non-spam numbers. And what's cool about it is we own these phone numbers. We're not spoofing numbers. So if someone calls that number back, it will route back to you as if it were your permanent phone number. And it will do that for perpetuity. And we do that in kind of a cool way. We essentially triangulate the call. So your phone number A and you're calling phone number C, and we know it's being routed through phone number B, that best performing Darwinism winning phone number. When C calls B back, we know to route it back to A, because that was what the initial call was made. And so we maintain that through the life cycle of your entire stint with Kixie. So it could be a year later they call that phone number to route back to you anyway. Pretty cool.
That's fantastic. And noticeable improvement at 45%. I mean, a 10%,
it's huge.
15 would be big. You guys.
Yeah, it was huge. Yeah, we right now, our connection boost, I'm confident saying it's the best on the marketplace in terms of defeating your number showing. It's not perfect, but it is way better than anything else out there. And we worked really hard on it. Yeah, it's pretty cool. We actually, one of our co-founders, our acting CEO, has gone kind of brilliant mind around these spam detection numbers. He's got like all these glass windows up in his office. You just see scrolling algorithms. It's so funny. He's hilarious. But we've done a killer job. So it was worth it. Yeah, for sure.
We got Ruoff Mortgage. I think it's the second to last one.
Yeah, so this is a fun one. Yeah, second to last one. This is a big mortgage company. We brought them on board HubSpot and Kixie at the same time. It was a big old move. They're like, we want 750 people, really at a time, split across two teams, 250 and 500. We want to bring them on board HubSpot and Kixie. And they wanted to utilize kind of really what Aldo just showed you. So they wanted to have dynamic sequencing. They had some prescriptive sequences too for new reps starting out, where they just follow the lines, call, text, call, email. But they wanted to switch up how they approached dialing and calling really calling and texting and make it more event-based and less prescriptive. And so that's what we help them do. So rather than just looking at form fills, which obviously they had been doing before, now we're looking at other points of data, integrate, interaction with chatbot, texting or calling in. So, if someone texts back any of their phone numbers, any of these texts that they're auto texting out, that's the time to call them because they're at their mobile phone that second texting you back. Call them right then. And so that's what they would do. They would call them right back. And if they don't answer, drop the automatic voicemail, text them back, be like, hey, I realize it's probably not a great time to call. You know what I mean? Let me know a good time. Here's my Calendly link. Schedule it. And so we just automate all of that. Literally, we just automate all of that for the sales reps. Yeah,
that's great.
It's been awesome.
And for a mortgage company, that's so person to person. I mean, there's the property out there. Yeah, I can imagine just the amount of meetings and one-on-ones, and then which property are we talking about? What are you calling in on? Having that dense contact data from HubSpot with then those calls. Yep. I can only imagine like the phone has got to be your workplace as someone running real estate. Kixie included
horsepower watching for events. They can just have the automations fire off at the event times, and then worry about, like you said, the property, making the sale, that kind of stuff.
Right. Because you're probably mobile anyway, so you're maybe making a call to schedule things, and so if I just need that makes a lot of sense that they would have gone that way. The mortgage services company, yeah. All right, we're wrapping up down here. There's some fun slides that says Kixie included services. We have recommendations.
Yeah, we can, if you want, if anyone has questions in the chat or something, I'm happy to answer them. Yeah, Kixie's an interesting platform in that we're pretty broad and we don't really attack any one vertical. We're broadly applicable across a whole bunch of different verticals, which makes it fun. So we deal with everything from roofing companies to solar companies to tech companies to finance companies, election campaigns. It's so funny. The multi-line multi-dialer is a big one right now with midterms coming up. We got a couple of campaigns I can't mention that are using it, which is really fun. So yeah, it's a cool platform for that reason. It keeps our job interesting, which I like.
Received. Max, Nick are here in Discord. We have a couple people online. No questions as of yet. That's probably a product of you gentlemen doing a good job of saying what you're saying, and Aldo showing us up.
Is Max asking something? I like the image. Hey, buddy.
Hey, what's up, guys?
What's up,
man?
Max?
You see me? Hey. Yo, quick question. So that little extension that you guys built into workflows, I think one was like send an SMS and then the other one was make a call or send a call. Can you tell me like how that like fundamentally works? Like, is that connecting, like when you showed the workflow that was like form submission happens and then it was like one of those actions was like a Kixie call. Who's making that call if it's triggered from a workflow? Is that like connecting someone who's like active and live on Kixie, or like how's a human getting on that phone call, I guess?
Let me show you the setup for those action steps. And by the way, Max, I love your videos.
I love your stuff too, man. I see the walkthroughs are always so sick on LinkedIn.
You've seen the walkthroughs?
Yeah,
dude, that's awesome. That's super cool. Okay, great to hear. So let me show you. You actually can specify like which person is making the phone call. So if I'm a contact owner, is everyone able to see my screen? Okay,
because it was frozen. Yeah. It's frozen. Oh wait, I got to switch over to yours. I'm looking at Grant's. Okay,
I can see it, buddy.
Yeah, I got it.
Cool. So when we say owner, what we're really asking for is like a HubSpot user field. And it doesn't have to be the contact owner field. If you have a custom user field, you can also plug that in. And sometimes people do that for auto texting. They say, okay, I want to text from like a generic phone number that I have on Kixie. So I'll create like a generic user and I'll put them in a custom field that nobody even has to see. And I'll send it out from there. Or you can send it from the contact owner. And there's different action steps like send call to queue or send call to cadence. And so those are going to ask for a queue ID and not an actual user, right? And then in the Kixie dashboard, you would create like a queue with a team. You plug that ID into it, and then all of your agents are there as a team, and they're being sort of like round robin based on who's available.
Got it. So they're like set as active in that queue somehow in Kixie, and then it's like, all right, a new phone call's getting triggered. You could accept it, and then we connect you to the person, kind of like when you make a call in HubSpot. and like you say, oh, send to
Exactly.
my phone, it calls you first and then it connects you. So is it kind of doing like a similar
Exactly.
thing just in your backend says, okay, sweet. So you can
Exactly.
hit add to a queue where it's like, anyone that's like working that queue right now will get the prompt to get on the phone and then it'll connect them. Or if it's like call from a specific person, is it just hitting a certain user in HubSpot?
Right. The only thing that we need is for the email address that you have in Kixie to match your HubSpot email address. Because that's oh no, I'm sorry, we OAuth in, so it'll go to whoever the HubSpot user in the is will that OAuth connection from Kixie is the one that's going to be prompted, and it will look like this.
Oh, gotcha. Oh, okay.
Am I
Sick.
available? Yeah. Let me pull up the contact record. It's on the other screen. Here it is. And let's accept the call. And now I'm dialing out. So if I'm not available, I just reject. Yeah.
All right, cool. And then if you reject it, what's it going to do? Is it just going to try to do it later, or is it going to fail in the back end? Or
if it's assigned to that owner, then it's only going to stay with them. And if they don't take it, they'll probably get a task to remind them later on to call. If it's assigned to the team, though, it's going to keep on going until someone from that team actually accepts it, and then it dials out.
Got it. Okay,
and the team is the
That's
queue,
awesome.
right? You build a queue for the team you want.
Right. Exactly. And you can also use that for inbound if you wanted to. You could assign a phone number to that call queue and have people call into it directly, or prompt it to make outbound calls through the HubSpot workflow.
Got it. So like if I had like demo, I don't know, any of my like hand raised forms on my site where it's like, yeah, someone explicitly knows they're getting a call from a sales rep, I can theoretically just set up a workflow that says as soon as someone fills this out, basically rip it into that call queue, and any of my sales reps that are just like next in line on the round robin in that call queue, they're going to immediately be prompted to call that person.
Exactly. And that's really the number one use case. It's always event driven. Like I submitted a form. I want either an auto text or an auto call. So primarily like inbound use cases where we call it speed to lead, call them right away as soon as they interact with your material in some way.
That's wild. Awesome. Super cool. Well, thanks guys. I got to run to a call, but I just wanted to pop in and say hi and ask that. That's really enlightening. Love it.
Yeah, dude, thanks for stopping by.
Thanks guys.
Love it,
Have a good one.
Max.
Yeah, it was great.
Close One City. That's where Max lives.
Oh, really? That's great.
I'll be selling these hats soon. You keep an eye
out. They're gonna come with every Kixie install, I think is how he was working that in.
Sick.
I love it.
Okay, so 1, fun guys. 2, lots of resources documentation. 3, not only an application, but a solutions partner. And so anyone who's installing Kixie or wanting to do more with it, then your team are the solutions, ALDO. It sounds like the solutions architects are going to help you get it there. What are we looking at as far as resources here? And we'll share this back in newsletter and over on Discord. Support documentation, video, case studies.
Well, I think Chuck, you want to take it away with the call to action? Or I can.
Yeah, sure. If you want, you can email HubSpot at Kixie. That'll route to our channel team. If you have any questions about Kixie, always happy to help. You can call directly to 424-600-3599, and that is my direct line.
Yeah, definitely the HubSpot at Kixie.com. So the email, literally just HubSpot at Kixie. Anyone can obviously go up to our website and fill out the form and get a free 7-day trial, right, if they wanted to. But the cool thing about emailing that, and we were talking about this earlier, is that you explicitly get this red carpet treatment. So like, I'm a huge believer in the fact that if you want to spend your time listening to me and Aldo kind of blab on about Kixie for however long it's been, half an hour, like you deserve some remuneration for that. You actually deserve to get something real for that. So if you email HubSpot at Kixie, like we'll give you, let you use Kixie for a month. We build it out. We'll build it all out with sales engineering automations, and just see if there's value there for you. And the decision is easy. If you are able to make enough revenue or save enough revenue by utilizing the platform to pay for the platform and more, then do so. And if you don't, then don't. It's a totally consultative sales approach, and you get quite a bit of time to do it if you email that HubSpot at Kixie email address. So I would invite people to do that.
So head over to HubSpot at Kixie, let them know that you're interested. You can message Chuck. You can be addressing Chuck. Is that right, David?
Yep.
Hey,
yeah,
Chuck.
if you email HubSpot at Kixie, it'll actually go to, we have a channel team that is entirely built for HubSpot. So we have an entire HubSpot channel team. All they do all day is help people get on board Kixie and HubSpot and connect with HubSpot employees and help them with Kixie and agencies. That's literally all they do. It's an entire team dedicated just to that CRM and the Kixie relationship with it. So by emailing HubSpot at Kixie, you'll get Chuck or the other channel guys, and they will, do their best to help you out. And we'll make all the resources available to you to really get the most out of the platform if you decide to give it a shot.
All right, Sprocketeers listening to this live or in perpetuity afterwards, email HubSpot at Kixie.com to try Kixie, get it installed and integrated into your HubSpot platform, into your portal. I just wanted to say a big thanks to both of you, to Chuck, who has really shepherded this whole thing. Thanks, Chuck. We appreciate you joining in the community, but then also raising your hand and saying, hey, Kixie needs to be highlighted. We need to talk about this thing. And from what I've seen today, it's amazing, not only the calling and the dialing, and then what I learned about, which was the Darwinism of the numbers, but the automation. The automation is amazing. Thanks, guys, for being here and showing us.
Thank you, Grant, for having us. Yeah.
Thank you.
This was a lot of fun. We're going to do some Kixie. We'll have some clips. Share with us maybe in the comments as we close out here. What are some of the clips you recommend that were, one, fun or super informative? It would be nice to know what points were the things that you maybe didn't know about Kixie or learned a new use case from. Those are the things I'm kind of most interested. But also, we just have a good time. So thanks, guys, for showing up, being authentic, and having a good time with me.
Yeah. Let's do an outro with that Blam sign. Where's your Blam logo again?
I was gonna.
There we go. Yeah, end on Blam.
Boom!